Just let me know when we're on.
Yep.
There's no TV
How coordinated
screen
they
there.
are over there. We're coordinated too.
Yeah. Tape it.
Recording.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Good evening, residents of Litchfield, and welcome to the November 1st, 2017 school board meeting. I'd like to begin with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do we have any revisions?
I do not, Mr. Chair.
Way over there.
Summary of non-public actions for October 18th, 2017. Ms. Burke made a motion to exempt the two identified high school students from the geometry requirements for graduation. Mrs. McDonald, second. Motion carried 5-0-0. I don't believe we have any presentations this evening. Correspondence. I think a letter from Congressman Ann Custer. There it is, hot off the press. Congratulating Dennis Perot and each of the students participating in the Campbell Recycling Advocacy Program for their hard work and dedication. So the letter is, Dear friends, let me extend the thanks and congratulations to Dennis Perot and each of the students who participated in the Campbell Recycling Advocacy Program. Through your diligent initiatives, Campbell High School has helped to integrate environmental sustainability into the Litchfield school system. It is wonderful to see the students not only getting engaged in this program, but essentially running it. From paper, aluminum cans, cardboard, plastics, clothing, and even copper wire, this truly is a holistic approach to comprehensive recycling. On behalf of my constituents across New Hampshire, 2nd Congressional District, I thank you for all that you do and make New Hampshire such a wonderful place to live, work, and recycle. If I may support your effort in any way, please don't hesitate to get in touch with me. I look forward to your continued work together. That's excellent. You know, I saw the article of him in the Hudson Richmond News also for his efforts. So, congratulations. Liz, can you just check on the door and make sure it doesn't say that we're in non-public?
You know what, I'll close the outside door.
Something.
Do you want me to just wedge it so that...
No, you can close it, but just, that's going to be turned around, that
She's gonna
sign.
close the hall door, too.
Oh, okay. Just in case someone wants to come in, they can come in. Thank you. All right. That'll bring us to superintendent's comments.
The enrollment reports from New Hampshire school boards have been returned, and there's no surprises, I don't believe, in the enrollment reports. We continue to look at a declining enrollment projection based on their data, and Dean Mitchner actually did this for us. The actual school board does not do it anymore. Dean did this separately from the New Hampshire school board, but it's the same person who did it previously. In the future, however, I'm not sure that Dean Mitchner is going to be available to do these, so we may have to consider either going to the NEASC report, which we had last year, or some kind of internal enrollment projections, if we can get the software that would allow us to do that and train somebody. But clearly, all the data shows that we will be declining in enrollment. It's a question of if you use a 3-year or a 5-year or a current cohort survival technique, but they're all showing us losing 200-300 students over the next 10 years. The actual numbers, about a couple hundred students. So I don't have anything else to add to that. Clearly, we'll see some of that next year in the middle school and the high school, and it will continue. Other than that, I don't have anything else to really add to that, unless you have any specific questions.
I have a question. Is that based on population of like New Hampshire, or is that just from what kids who are living, do you know what I mean? Like
Yep.
kids coming up, or?
What they do is they take the current children in each grade level, and they take a look at over the last 3 years or the last 5 years, what does that cohort group look like as it migrates through the district. So if you have 100 students in the 5th grade this year, do you have 101 or 99 next year? Do you have 102 or 98?
Okay.
So you take a look at cohort survival over 3 or 5 years to predict, once you take your children in, what they're going to look like as it goes through the district. The most difficult projection is the 1st grade, or if you have full-day kindergarten, your kindergarten enrollment. And they do that by taking a look at birth 5 years previously, natality rates, Then they look at the total number of housing permits for an immigration measurement. And so you take a look at your total number of new housing, your total number of births, and that you try to take from that and take a look at what you're projecting your first grade enrollment will be. So if you look in the data, what they'll have is 5-year birth numbers, then they'll have your first grade number, and let's say there are 52 births, you have 55 kids in first grade. They'll also take some, some kind of an adjustment for that. So you take your birth rate, your natality rate, no, you don't use natality, use immigration, emigration, and natality as your cohort survival. So that's how they project these things, and it's a software program. I don't know how complicated it is, but certainly we can look into that.
I was just curious
Yeah.
how they, because they
No.
seem to be pretty close and accurate.
Yeah. And the last year, if you recall, the New England School Development Council projection rates noted that Litchfield was somewhat of an anomaly from other districts because you had a much larger first grade cohort than would have been projected by the birth rates 5 years previous. They suggested in that report that that could be due to not necessarily an increase in the number of new homes, but an increase in the number of homes that are being turned over from mature families that don't have kids in school to younger families that do have kids in school. But they did notice it was a bit of an anomaly from what they were projecting just based on numbers.
Thank you.
Anything else?
I don't at this time, Mr. Chair.
That'll bring us to the budget update. One thing I asked Corey right when you were walking in, because normally in the past there's been like little subcategories for each of the different budgets as far as for the board to go through it and make any cuts if they want to make any cuts at this time. I know that like a lot of stuff was pulled out and it's more or less like out there for end of year funds to be
Yep.
utilized. And I know that the budget's pretty tight, so you can give us the overview. What I want to do is just take each section.
Okay.
I'm not going to go line for line or even section, just in case anyone on the board has any comments, anything that they saw
Okay.
or have looked at, if they want to make any type of cuts from there.
Okay.
I mean, the budgets are pretty tight to begin with.
Yeah.
I mean, especially when you look at all the individual schools, they're almost like flat, except for GMS. And that was, based on because of the full-day kindergarten.
Okay. Just quick, just based on the conversation during the budget work session, I provided a report, the budget reconciliation that will go from what was in there for the superintendent's budget to the school board's budget and give a reconciliation of items that had to be added back in, some software issues that I had in terms of you have to click off update total for that to come across into the budget, so some of those things had to be added back in, along with some other items that we identified as related to the LMS one-to-one and the Learning Commons model that could also be addressed through that strategic listing. And I also provided an updated strategic list in here as well. So if there's any questions on any of those items, then I can speak to those.
Does anyone have any questions this time? All right, so like I said, we'll just go through like each, and I'll just ask them if there's any questions. So the first section I have is SAU. Anyone has anything? School board? HR? Again, I know we went through this, I mean, basically like line for line, and we had a lot of discussion. I know that items were pulled out. But again, just if everybody had the opportunity to look through it again. Next is salaries and benefits. Again, I'm certain you're going to speak as far as salaries and benefits, where they see the additional teachers at the middle school, what the expectation is from us, what we plan to do there, right? Mr. Superintendent?
Say that again? I'm sorry. I was thinking about something else.
I know. I said, as far as the additional teachers right now that show in the middle school,
Mhm.
you'll have conversation with the budget committee as far as where those positions are going to move to kindergarten.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, I've already made a statement that we would
Because
use.
I'm certain that
migrate
they're going to
those.
jump on that anyway, that there's additional teachers that at the middle school that aren't needed, and we know that, and what we're going to be doing with them.
Yep.
Curriculum. GMS. Again, GMS is flat if you take out the kindergarten. LMS. CHS.
Corey,
Special-
did you hear back from Mr. Lonigan about Jared tightening up a little bit the athletics budget?
I have not.
Okay.
I mean, we did take a look through a couple things.
Yeah.
I did note on one of the listings too that there was, I think, the question of the porta potty and who pays
Mhm.
for it
Yeah.
came up. We did determine that athletics tends to pay that, so that came out of grounds now. So that did, there was an adjustment there.
Yep. So did you do anything as far as with special services for transportation? Do we have any updates on that as of yet, or?
So what happened, the follow-up with Durham Services is that rate, they're coming back down to, I think they brought it from 220 back down to 165, I want to say off the top of my head. So they did meet us in the middle in reducing that rate. It didn't go, it didn't, well, we don't have a contract with that one, so they're used as an additional service where.
So it's still probably like 50% more than what we were paying last year.
Yeah.
So is that reflected now in the budget?
That is not reflected in here. I just got that in after the budget books were printed to go into.
Okay. So
I
will
can do
that
some
update be given
calculations
to the
on
budget committee,
that. I can do that.
just so they know before they start with special services that there's gonna be additional cost due to transportation? Next area is transportation, which obviously is all contractual. Business office. Building and grounds. And the last is food service. I know that, and Michelle, you can correct me if I'm wrong, that the budget committee, I believe, wanted to just do a bottom line cut for the town side, and the town didn't want that.
No, the town, they have to tell you where to put, where to apply it, what function for the MS-27. They have to.
Right, but didn't they like speak at the last meeting that that's what they want to do, is just do a bottom line?
They want to, but
Yeah.
they didn't.
So, just be prepared, they may like come across that way too with the school tomorrow. That, you know, they'll say, do we want, 10% cut, whatever, across the board, or $1 million, who knows what they would say.
Okay.
But I know in the past that it's the same thing. We let them tell us where they want to cut, because they're the ones making the cuts, if they are making any. I'm actually hoping they suggested they put money back in our budget, but the likelihood of that is slim to none. But I think we're presenting them with a very fair budget and a very trim budget, especially for what our goals are for next year and the years going forward. So, good luck tomorrow.
Thank you.
That'll bring us to community forum, unless anyone has any other questions for Corey.
I did have a couple additional
Okay, I'm
items,
sorry.
Brian, if I could
Yeah, go
just
right ahead.
finish up.
Just trying to get you out of here.
There, so Tom Lecklider from LMS attended a Alice training at Alvern High School within the past couple of weeks. We also had an overview presented at all three of the schools. He put us in contact with a representative from Alice, which is they do trainings within the schools for public safety, emergency training, stuff like that, and came forward with a quote for us in order to run a full day drill in March at all three schools. It'd be a multi-location, and there's also a online certification that comes with that for all staff in our buildings. So he did come forward with a quote. We do have money available to go forward with that, and I just wanted to bring that to the board and see if the board would be supportive of that, want us to go forward with that.
And what's the cost?
It's $14,000.
Yeah, we had a presentation, I think we had talked to you about at the middle school, and it was very well received. The presentation was done by the Hudson police officers and one who lives in town, and it was very well received by the teachers, and we also presented to the GMS and CHS has some teachers that had discussed this. Everybody was really I want to make sure I choose the right word, very supportive, very much supportive of having the ALICE training. ALICE training is the alert, lockdown, inform, not consent, and then evacuate. It's training in case something should happen in our school. We have an intruder or something crazy happens. And it is the type of training that the Litchfield Police Department has fully endorsed. And it's the kind of training which, in recent events, has proved to be much more effective than the kind of training we used to have, which was to be kind of passive and kind of stay in your room and go to corners. This is a much more active kind of a training. And what the company that does this will do is bring in a number of trainers and go through an entire training, including, my understanding, some live simulation of a shooter, and actually using some kind of a stun.
It's they're little
Air
tiny
gun.
pellets, they don't hurt.
Just something so you
I've been
remember
shot.
it. So you remember.
I have, and they give you a mask and everything.
Yeah, and so I think where we're currently working on our emergency operations plan district-wide, that doing the ALICE training is somewhat expensive, but I think it's well worth the amount of money that we would spend for it. And I think the district, as a district, would then be able to say, we've done the current best practices for these kinds of insane events. So I would recommend to the board that we be allowed to take some of our projected fund balance and target that as ALICE training expenses for this current year.
Can I ask you, Corey, I know where I was, we did the online training, it takes about an hour to do it online, and then we had a 3.5 hour live action
Yep.
drills, and it was extremely eye-opening, and I came home and I told my children they did not have to shelter in place. That's how, I can't believe how much I learned in 2.5 hours, that everything we taught our children, and they have statistics, they have facts, they play videos from Columbine, phone calls, it is the best money we will spend as a district. I can't say it enough. You agree? Yeah.
So how does this, I'm all in favor of it, I think we need to do this. But how does it then trickle down to the students? How do we drill, you said it'll be a drill for the staff, and then how do we teach our kindergartners how to follow the protocols without scaring,
I think
without frightening them? How do we make it age appropriate for them?
my goal is to get the Joint Loss Management Committee involved and to start planning those things and how
Okay.
and work with the ALICE trainers to know
Okay.
exactly how
I didn't
to
know if
implement it
they did that
district-wide.
part of it
You-
too.
They'll have tons of recommendations.
Oh, okay, on
They-
how we teach our kids how to
And
react.
you've also, like we do the 10 drills every year, some of those can be lockdown drills, so that you can do some of those as fire drills, but other drills you can do would be more hopefully we never have to do.
Right, and I know at the elementary school, when they do a lockdown, it's in case a dog comes in the building, or, in case somebody comes in and we
Yeah.
don't.
And I mean, obviously, we have to, like anything we want response to, we have to train people on how to respond, and that would include all of our children, so that the children, because obviously the response at kindergarten is probably extremely different from the response at a high school in terms of what your expectations are. So that would be something that we would have to not only train our teachers, but obviously train and practice with our children.
Is this all the schools?
Yeah,
Yeah,
there would be
okay.
drills at all three.
I just encourage it not to be just teachers, it would be all staff,
Yeah.
because they're not necessarily with teachers all the time.
That's a
I
good
think
point.
the
I
contract
mean,
is
40% of the day the kids are outside, is the outside staff can be trained to handle it and stuff like that.
They do groups of about 20 people. They have masks for about 20 to 30 people in each,
I think there's
Didn't they do
50 people per
custodians?
trainer.
yeah.
Did they do custodians and staff?
They did one because they needed people in the schools when we were gone, but they did do a few. I don't know about at your school.
In my conversations with Tom when he went to Alvern, they split into groups of 50 for each trainer.
50, 5-0, or 1-5?
50.
5-0.
So and then you
Across 3
had
classrooms.
yeah, and then you could choose. People can choose not to participate and just to observe, and you also get equipped with a mask and such. But he said part of the recommendation from the Alice trainer would be to focus on your staff in the morning, and then there's a lunch, and then focus on peripheral staff, custodial, everybody else in the afternoon to make sure that everybody knows what to do in situations.
Especially like lunch monitors and recess monitors, those are the forgotten ones.
Yep.
And like I said, they're with the kids 40% of the day.
Right, and they're outside,
Can you
yeah.
open it to subs?
Say that again?
Can you open it to substitute teachers?
Mm.
Because when we have drills at school, I have no idea. I go
So,
by,
the question I was gonna ask Corey is there information or learning information that's left behind for those who don't attend?
But it's something I'd have to look into. to
That
see
online
what the-
training's
the
pretty-
carry-on.
I mean, you want the
That's
entire, you want
for
the
an
entire
hour.
school to act the same way, so obviously there must be something there as far as you can train the rest of the staff who's not at the meetings.
Yep, and we can certainly look into
I
that.
mean, you'd hate to see like, yeah, like you said, you have a substitute teacher comes in and that person's doing one thing while everyone else is doing something else. Or only the people who went to the training is doing what they ask, and the rest are like, ducking in closets.
Right,
Do we have a
scatter.
full day off in March?
Yeah, I think it's March 13th. It's the full day, PD day.
It's a PD
Election
day.
day. On election day.
And I did have, there was, I believe, some discussion during the work session about some 8th grade students, I believe it was algebra students, and the ability to maybe get some one-to-one or Chromebooks into their hands a little bit sooner. I did do a look through some of the budget numbers and identified some money that we would be able to start that process as well, if the board would like to go forward with that as well.
Actually, I think you should be doing it for not only algebra, but for Spanish, because both of those classes are high school classes.
Well, this would be, the numbers that we would buy now would deduct
I think
from the
you'll find
total
that
number
most
that we would
students
have to
that are
buy.
taking
Next year.
Spanish taken out.
Algebra, or taking algebra, or taking the Spanish, so.
Yeah. I think it's about all of
Maybe
them.
find a few that are just taking
Same thing.
one or the other, but.
They just they'll have them for next year too?
Those Chromebooks would stay at the middle school, and it would deduct from the number that we would have to buy to finish out the whole school. So we just have to identify the number of students that we would need.
Why wouldn't the student just bring it with them?
What's that?
Why wouldn't the student just bring them with them?
I think we could, obviously.
I mean, that's what high school, that's what high school is gonna do, just carry them all through 4 years.
Yeah, I think we have the ones in the senior class are gonna be
But I
coming
think
down.
we're,
So I think there's a,
They bought their own
we're
though.
replenishing
The
every
senior
freshman
class
class.
bought their own computers.
Right.
Or is it junior?
But you'd
Oh, the juniors are the ones that bought
But
their own.
then you're
Got it.
6 months early.
Yeah, they did, the junior
Not the
class.
I'm just saying, like, so if I got a
20
Chromebook
to
for 6 months, why wouldn't I just have my same
Right.
Chromebook?
40.
The pilot cohort.
I mean, we can just discuss it later, I mean, I didn't,
But the goal of the district is
You
to
don't
have
need to micromanage it.
no.
all high school students with Chromebooks and all middle school with students with Chromebooks. So if in the combined number there were, say, 780 students, then our goal is to have 780 Chromebooks. So it really doesn't matter if the 8th grade Chromebooks go to the high school,
Right.
because we're looking just to find out how many Chromebooks we have to purchase so that everybody has a Chromebook.
And how many are we talking as far as numbers right now?
I think we said about 75, I think.
Numbers for what?
For the
I
kids
I don't think
that
you're
were-
much
middle
more than
school.
that.
Necessary right now. for
I think
middle
you're
school.
between 60 and 70
Yeah.
students, yeah.
I believe Tom had said 66.
Yeah,
Yeah, somewhere.
Somewhere's in that
Yeah.
ballpark, and then we'd want to get a couple, so let's say 66, 67, somewhere's in there. So what, like $200 book,
225 with licensing, I think that's his.
225, so
another
about
$14,000.
13, 14 grand.
We're spending 14 like it's nothing.
And now, if you wanted to take us up on, if you wanted us to follow up on the Spanish section, that would be another, probably 25, I would guess.
I think
No, I
like
don't
what
think-
John
I
said.
think
Yeah.
I think your algebra and Spanish classes, students will pretty much
Overlap.
match up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right.
I think they'll pretty
I
much
think
match
you're
up.
right. I think,
Give
yeah,
or
you're
take
right.
One or
half
two.
a dozen or less,
Kids,
but
that's all. Yeah, you're right. So we would ask the board to give us the approval to expend the money for the Chromebooks and to expend the money for the Alice training in March from what we project to be a fund balance that would be pretty significant at this point in time, and you've encumbered all of your known expenses at this point in time, and we still believe that we would have the money to be able to do that and still have sufficient money to give back to the town as we've done in the past.
Motion so made.
Can we take it
Yeah.
one by one, or do we have to approve it altogether?
Oh, we can do them separate.
Okay.
And we don't even really need to make a motion, do we? We can, I mean, just for
Bottom
formality,
line
right?
budget, just
Right.
say yes, go do it.
Okay. Then, can I add one more thing, Mr. Chair?
Another 14,000?
The superintendent's hot tub has not been installed. He realizes it's somewhat of an iffy issue. But seriously, we had a significant event weather-wise over the last couple of days, and I just want to express my appreciation to the fire chief for keeping us in contact at all time and emailing out and letting us know exactly what's going on. And mostly, I want to express my appreciation to Corey. Corey, as a resident of the community, really was the key point person during that entire 48-hour time frame, and I really want to express my sincere appreciation to Corey. Did a fabulous job for the district in terms of taking care of things, keeping me informed, and going forward, so thank you very much publicly.
All right, I'm gonna ask a question, I'm sorry, Brian. What are we gonna, that's 2 snow days already gone. That wasn't considered a state of emergency, we can't apply for any dispensations, for lack of a non-religious word.
That decision hasn't been made yet. I don't
Okay.
believe, I don't know what the governor's intent is, but that would be strictly a governor's.
I'm just curious, because we're gonna have snow, I'm pretty sure.
Well, with global warming, we probably have midwinter temperatures in the mid-50s.
That's true.
And we probably should upgrade the superintendent's hot tub.
Yeah, that's too bad. A serious response to your question is, yes, having 2 days this early in the year could be a challenge for us. And certainly, we will have to see what the snow days look like and revisit this. And obviously, we can extend school into late June if need be, which is not anybody's first choice, I'm sure. But we do have state minimum requirements for days or hours, and we could apply for an hourly approach to the year, and certainly that works for the majority of our grade levels, but does not work for all of our grade levels. So we would have to kind of take a look at where things are as we go through the winter.
That's.
So I'll be the-
Applies to the most it solves the problems for graduating seniors, but it creates quite the havoc for the 8th graders.
Yes, it is.
But I'll be the first just to say it publicly that that graduation day isn't set in stone.
Both
It's close to it. High school, too.
It
You
is
already
not
lost 2
set in
days.
stone? Okay.
But this,
No, they're not set in stone.
No,
They
because
both
it,
are,
yeah, could be the
you know,
next
they
week.
both,
Contingent on
you
weather.
know, I mean, 4 days, what is it, the 21st with the 4 days? We've already missed 2?
yes, but keep in mind that the seniors can graduate
On
and use hours for the seniors so long as you're within a certain time frame or window for your undergraduate, your freshman, sophomore, juniors. The last 2 years, we have used hours as a basis to set the graduation date for our seniors, and we've been fine. Now, again, this could be a really unusual year. We'll have to wait it out and see what happens.
But you're already negative 2 days. And I'm certain half the town of Litchfield, and I'll say it publicly too, probably woke up on Monday and said, why are we not having school? And then you may have
I
also,
said the same thing.
and then may have asked yesterday, why didn't we have school? Because we still had one school that didn't get powered back till like 3 o'clock.
It all comes down to the school, you're right.
You know,
Yeah.
it's unfortunate, I mean, a lot of us got our
Yeah.
power back, some didn't get our power back till like last evening,
Some
but,
didn't lose our power at all.
yeah. So it was like a really mixed bag in town, like half the town had power, half of them didn't.
There was also, from what I understand from Corey, there was a significant amount of debris that was in different areas, and
Absolutely.
bus transportation and safety of children also entered
course,
into that
yeah.
whole situation.
Bus Route 6 had a tree across it until about
Yeah.
3 o'clock yesterday afternoon. I wouldn't have been able to get through. So there was quite a bit.
And even then, I mean, there's still that sign of danger from all the rain and the winds, as far as other trees coming down, and I can personally attest to that,
Oh,
seeing
yeah,
one whack
you've
my
had a-
car.
You've had a traumatic
I was driving
event.
down 114 going towards Sully's, and all of a sudden I get whacked by a tree.
You always wanted a new car.
It is a new car, isn't it?
It was.
Sorry,
Yeah,
throwing salt in the wound.
yes. So when do you anticipate getting the Chromebooks?
I can start working towards it, get I can get Jason working on it within the next couple of days.
Couple, 3 weeks. I mean, it's a question of getting them and getting them prepared.
Yep.
I would say probably by the 1st of December or so.
When I get back from Thanksgiving?
You need a form.
I think so. I think that's, they've only got 3 weeks before Thanksgiving, so I'd say about the first week of December would be a pretty good guess.
I bet Jesse can buy them tomorrow.
We can get them tomorrow, maybe?
And the reason I say that, because we talked about, John knows it also, and Eric, I don't know, your daughter's not there yet, but my daughter's in 8th grade also, and that's what they say, it's like everything's, it's all done electronically now, both classes.
Well, why don't we
And I
just,
think they'll benefit from it.
we understand you're saying ASAP on getting the Chromebook. So we will expedite this as quickly as we possibly can.
Make that one on the list of two $14,000 purchases.
It is
Well, the other
already
one's like
there,
later
sir.
on in the year anyway.
I know, I'm just,
It is already
I'm just
there.
giving him a hard time.
All right.
The hot tub second.
Anything else?
I have to say to the community, that if you listen to this, this is obviously just nonsense. Going around.
There'll be thumbs down.
The superintendent's office is not even heated at this point.
Mom's group's already blown up.
Yeah.
They've got hot tubs at the high school.
Up by the pool.
Do you have anything else, Corey?
I do not, thank you.
All right, that'll bring us to community forum.
So I have questions about Chromebook. Before you order,
Can
will you
you
put...
name and address, please?
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's
I've
okay.
never done this before. Claire?
You gotta
Chu?
come, you gotta come to the microphone.
No.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
Mrs. Chill?
There you go.
They gotta be able to hear you at home. We get great ratings.
Yeah.
They'll listen to me because they'll love my accent. Claire Chu, 19 Newstead Street. Before you buy Chromebooks, will you put it to the 8th grade parents to be able to buy their own?
Why would they buy their own Chromebook if we're going to give them one?
It's an option. My daughter has her own because she's one of the pilot program. And do they, because the second part to my question was, do they keep them over the summer? Or do they return them? Because she uses hers over the summer.
They return them.
And if they are in honors programs or AP stuff, they have work assigned to them over the summer. So will they have access to the Chromebook?
I would
So if
imagine,
they have their own,
I would imagine that if we're assigning schoolwork to students, they'll keep their Chromebooks over the summer.
I believe the high school right now turns them in.
yeah.
Yeah,
they
but I
turn-
mean,
Really?
but I mean, this
Maybe
is
you
the
get
first I heard that we're
dispensation, that's my
assigning
word of the night.
work for them to do, so if
I don't
that's the
think we're
case.
assigning work. I think it's work they're doing in addition, correct?
No, no, no,
No.
they are
AP
assigned
courses
work.
have separate.
AP courses
Yeah.
and some honors classes are assigned work to do over the summer. And that's where I'm saying if my child has her Chromebook, then hey, it's easy.
There's
So,
absolutely no reason why a parent can't provide their child a Chromebook.
so will you communicate that to the 8th grade parents?
Sure.
And knowing that I have, and you guys have had your children go through 7th grade accelerated, I would recommend that's the next class to look at for Chromebooks, because they're all on computers
It's
as
all in
well.
middle school we're looking at.
For next year.
But next
Okay.
year, we hope to have a Chromebook for every student in the middle school. That's in the budget, and that's the goal for next year.
Okay, but not 7th this year for their accelerated.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I'm certain we can have Ms. Lecklatter send an email out to the 8th grade parents.
Will do. We certainly can look at that if we're on honors and AP courses
Right.
requiring students to use computer kinds of assignments. Having students have the capacity to use the computers over the summer seems to make sense to me. We can certainly look into
I'm
that.
sure Mr. Perez could probably answer that question for us, how they're doing it here at the high school.
And we've grown very quickly over the last
Well, actually,
6 months.
we've never had a group of students get to juniors or seniors with Chromebooks.
True.
So we would never have known that they're doing that, because they would just have been doing it before. But now that we do,
We have, though.
I believe honors chemistry 2 years ago.
oh, it may have
which
been
would
happening when they
been-
didn't have Chromebooks. They didn't have Chromebooks in the high school,
Yes,
except
they
for
did.
just freshmen and sophomores?
The freshman year that was the first year to have Chromebooks, those that were in honors chemistry should have been assigned work because...
That would have been after their sophomore year.
No, after their freshman year, into their sophomore year.
Well, my son became a...
New teacher.
I understand that. Well, I mean, that's what I'm saying. So we'll have to take a look at the curriculum and the process of that, but didn't happen this year.
But the year
For
before
chemistry students.
the year before it was my understanding it did, and again, those that had the Chromebooks were in the pilot program, so they already had their Chromebooks. So that was where it could have been easier.
And I'm certain that can be arranged. My understanding when they brought the Chromebooks back in after the end of the year was more or less to clean them up
Yes.
and filter them
Yeah.
through and everything else. So I'm certain that can be done at some point in time, through the course of the summer when they're not utilizing them. So I'm certain, especially where we're requiring them to do work on it, that they'll have
Yeah.
possession of it.
And the other reason that is, if you've got, I know this seems picky for those of you who don't deal with it, but you've got a child who has allergies, there is one drop of a peanut oil left on that computer, and a child with a peanut allergy gets it, you've got a problem, potentially. So there's another thing that those parents that have children with allergies might be saying, I'd like the same one back because I know they're clean.
I just assumed that, when we said that they'd be carrying them up all the way through, that they would have their device, and their device would be their device all the way through.
Starting in 6th grade, they carry it all the way through to high
Well-
school.
They would, but they
That's-
would turn it in the summertime.
Yeah. But it has their names
Well,
on the
actually-
bottom and their,
I think that, wait a minute.
I mean,
This is, okay, we should not make any comments, because the two pilot programs, the parents bought the Chromebooks. So this is the first year that everybody has a Chromebook, so we really haven't laid and made any hard decisions on that, because if you're gonna pass back 450 Chromebooks in the high school and ask the IT department to prep them or whatever, we probably should get some feedback on that. So I don't think we should say that's what we've done, because it's not what we've done. We only really had 2 classes, and then we outfitted everybody this year. So I think there's some
I think we get some
learning
clar-
curve
right.
here.
I'm sure we can get some
before we,
clarification from Jason what he
on
needs to
that.
do.
Yeah. And that, whatever happened in the high school would probably be the same thing that we would continue in the middle school. And then, again, we'll have to go through the process. We'll have to determine whether or not these things have an 8-year shelf life or a 4-year shelf life. What is the shelf life of this? Is it, every 5th grader's getting one, and every freshman's getting one, and then as they, meander wherever, we shouldn't stock these things. So as they graduate, we ought to just say, and a parting gift is your Chromebook or something. So, there are things that, maybe not so much this year, because they're only gonna have a year's worth of work on them, but as we,
Well, we've had conversations,
Move through
John,
that.
what you do at the end of the high school is, and again, nothing's set in stone, but what, the pilot, the school we went to visit that was presenting this, what they did after 4 years is offered the student to purchase it.
there's no value. What are they gonna
It-
purchase it for?
They would sell,
So
because
lease
a lot of
only for a
students,
buck?
no, like $50, $75 they would sell them for.
Well, this is.
Because the student has a lot of information on
Well,
there, a
that's
lot
what
of
I'm saying.
content on
That's
there.
what I'm saying they do, but again, we're off sidebar here, but
Let's get
the
them,
goal is not to make this a money maker and whatever. At least I don't see it that way.
no, it's not gonna be a moneymaker,
Well, it is, you're charging money for it.
but it's only to recoup some of the cost. But when we get them first, and then we'll go from there. That brings us to school board comments.
Just a few comments. I sent to Brian and Superintendent O'Neill an article about there's a bill moving through Concord in which they're going to reallocate adequacy aid to parents who are either homeschooling or sending their students to many different types of schools and stuff and things like that. And basically, they factored in the adequacy aid is about $3,636, and they've done, they did a huge spreadsheet across all the different towns And, but for Litchfield, they did the numbers at 1%, 2%, 3%, 4%, 5% of your student population that opted out of public education and went elsewhere. And for Litchfield, at 1% is equivalent to 8/10 of a teacher. At 2%, it's 1 2/3 teachers. At 3%, it's 2.5 teachers. At 4%, it's 3 1/3 teachers, and at 5%, it'd be 4 1/4 teachers. That's how much adequacy aid you would be losing, factored in at 3. I mean, at 5%, it's like 60 students. So I mean, it's not. I'm pretty confident this thing's going to move through. I mean, I don't. The superintendents have been arguing about it, but you know, the people at home should call our representatives and our state senator if they're not in support of it, because if not, then it's probably going to become law. I mean, the governor's in support, the Department of Education's in support of it, so.
So going to take money out of our budget?
Oh, yeah.
So, may I ask a question?
Yeah.
So you're saying that if 5% of our 1,400 students, roughly 70 students, is that 70 new students or 70 existing students?
Existing students.
And so if we had 70 existing students that chose to go to private school, homeschooling, et cetera, with this new law, we would lose 3 teachers, or the equivalent of the financing for 3 teachers?
4.25.
So we would lose at $80,000 a teacher, roughly $300,000 in funding?
They have it as 240,000.
So if our current students who are currently going to private schools or elsewhere just stay where they are, we would lose the funding for 4 teachers, 5 teachers. So that would mean that we would have to make up that funding by increasing our budget or lay off 4 or 5 teachers.
Right, now, and realize, this is just based on if new students go. Presently, if there's already homeschool students or students that are already going to other schools,
Have a good night.
their adequacy aid, it doesn't come to us. But now this adequacy aid is going to go elsewhere, and it could be subtracted from
So
our budget also.
Our revenue stream would decrease. If our budget stayed constant, we would have to have more taxation on the local taxpayers to make up the revenue stream. So if we lost, say 100 students, we're going to have to increase our taxes to the local taxpayer by $300,000-$400,000 to make up that difference. So this is a very significant impact on public schools' capacity to provide funding for all of our students. And when I speak about the adequacy aid, saying the state says that all we need is
$636.
we need $3,636 to adequately fund a student, we all know that is a farce. So it seems to me that this bill is very, very dangerous to public schools, and it sidetracks money to other areas, private schools, that historically, if you choose to send your child to a private school, that's fine, that's your choice. But public schools haven't had to support that kind of choice. And it seems to me like this is a very slippery slope, and it's a slope which means the public school is going to be penalized, and the local taxpayer is going to be penalized. The local taxpayer is going to wind up having to pay for parents to send their kids to private schools. So as a tax-paying body throughout the community, you're going to be supporting every private school placement to the sum of $3,600. I don't believe that's fair. I think that's an inappropriate way of using taxpayer money. Thank you.
So is that a school voucher?
Pretty much. It's called
So that
adoption rate for vouchers in district.
so if I sent my child to a private school, they would give me a check for $3,600 to offset the tuition?
Well, I don't know if it would go to you or to, well, I guess it would go to you because.
One way or the other, we're losing the
Yeah.
money,
Yeah.
and it would go to support the private school that
I
your
don't know if
son
they'll-
is going.
I mean, if you homeschooled, the article said the money would go directly to the parent. But I would imagine if your student was going to XYZ
This by
school, it would probably be sent to that school. in your student's name.
Again, my concern is that I think it's an inappropriate use of money generated by taxing the local citizens to support private education. That's what I think. Thank you.
So, a couple of other things.
Any other happy news, John?
I did, a couple other things. I was very disappointed to read in the paper yesterday that the superintendent in Northwood tendered his resignation effective the end of the year because of the abuse that the superintendent took because of the busing issue. When the busing company walked away and they had no busing, and they were trying to figure it out, and
Didn't realize this was a resignation.
he, they had the elementary kids going to school from like 10 to 4:30. I don't know where they had them, but they were struggling. And I guess it got pretty ugly up there. And gym superintendents have a tough job. And, and that seemed to be one that was really unfortunate because,
My understanding of that situation, I was at the meeting on Friday, which he spoke to it, is that they just cannot hire bus drivers, and because they couldn't get enough bus drivers to drive the buses, they couldn't run some of the routes, so they had to make some accommodations by changing times and how they were going to have kids, so that a bus driver could run a route, come back and run another route. So, I think that my understanding of it, that this was not a superintendent's control issue, it was more something that was just an issue around
well, the bus
getting
company,
bus drivers for the bus company.
well, the bus company went belly up in like a week before school.
Yeah.
And
Well, I
so
don't
then
know
they
the
were
whole
trying
story.
to
I
fix
know
it. So.
Commissioner Edelbut requested that all of us give him any information around that, and I know that he's contacted New Hampshire companies, but also Massachusetts companies, Vermont companies, and he was going to contact Maine companies, bus driving companies, to see if they had any excess capacity. And at the point last Friday, he reported back that there was no excess capacity for bus drivers, and that when someone has an opportunity to drive a truck or a vehicle for a commercial enterprise, it's an 8-hour-a-day job, 40 hours a week, making reasonably good money, it's a lot more enticing than a split shift in the morning and the afternoon with no benefits, making relatively small money. That was my understanding of the situation. I could be wrong.
And then, actually, it was read in the paper today that in Manchester, they just were rewarded or received a grant for $300,000 for one-to-one, implementing one-to-one in one of their schools. It was in the Union Leader, so it should be on their website tomorrow. But it might be something to take a look at and see if there's still some grant money to be found with that, whatever the organization was. that
We certainly can look at
offering
that. A lot of times, as we all know, the criteria for a lot of those grants are hinged on free and reduced lunch populations in your public schools. And fortunately for this community, that's a very low number, but we certainly will look
It
into
didn't
that.
seem to be, more around that. It seemed to be more of, they were struggling or lagging behind
Okay.
being into the computerized process, and it was just trying to help them get there.
We can look into that. Thank you.
Anything else?
That's it.
Any other school board comments? I'd like to just congratulate all the teams, CHS. Unfortunately, several of them are out of the playoffs right now, but they did make it to the playoffs. I believe both the boys and girls soccer are out now, and I just heard that volleyball is out. But we still have the football team going. And then at CHS, there were 2 champions of CHS, volleyball and girls soccer.
At Element.
LMS, I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
And we should congratulate the Division III girls cross-country team that won a state champion, and Jeffrey Allen, who won the Division III boys cross-country.
By the fall season.
Yeah.
So,
And I know the boys at LMS had a good year also in the playoffs.
It's not over yet.
So, a lot of good teams, a lot of good players coming up from LMS into CHS.
And if I might add to that, not only athletically are we doing very well, but academically, Our trend lines are looking pretty good, too. We can have a little bit more discussion about that, but certainly our most recent data that we've received are very encouraging. So it's both athletics and academics, which is really a great thing to see.
Excellent. All right. That'll bring us to public minutes. Approval for draft minutes from October 18th, 2017. Anyone jump at once to make a motion?
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained. 500. The next on the agenda is the reports, curriculum and principal reports. Those are written only, so those can be viewed on the website.
There's some, I would like to have some discussion on a couple of items in there, if I can.
Yep.
Sure. All right, so let me pop open the curriculum
Which one?
report. I'm gonna do the curriculum report first.
Okay.
Just as an explanation, the administrative team will be attending the Budget Committee meetings as they go forward. I've asked the entire team to attend the Budget Committee meetings, so rather than having them out tonight and tomorrow night, I asked the board chair if the administrative team could be excused from this evening and answer any questions. And then once we get through this kind of frenetic thing, because not only do they have Budget Committee, they have all kind of athletic programs and other things going on, then we certainly want the principals and curriculum director to be at the school board meetings.
Have they come to any decisions about whether the competency grading and finals and overriding competencies for failed? Nothing?
No.
Okay,
We have,
Had
I know
discussions.
that Principal Lonigan is looking into that.
okay.
I know that we have an upcoming NEASC accreditation process that we're going through, and I think right now our focus is on going through the NEASC accreditation process and having that run smoothly, and then I believe that we'll be taking a look at some of the other things, but certainly at this point, our focus is on the NEASC accreditation. NEASC is New England Association of Schools and Colleges, and it's the decennial every 10 years. If you get fully accredited, that they would come in with a checkup every 4 or 5 years. And we are in our review and finalizing, and we'll have them in here. I can't remember the dates right now, but they'll be in here this year to go through the district and accreditate our school, our high school.
So, on the curriculum report.
Yep.
Corey, I see you're mentioned here about the, this Homeland Security audit. So will you be bringing that information to the committee,
For the,
building committee, that they talk here about vegetables constructed for security at the high school and the middle school and GMS?
certainly, I think there was some question as to whether if the grant is going to be 100% funded or if there's going to be local matching funds related to it
Okay.
to fund some of these projects. So I can certainly bring that forward to the
I don't know, we wanted to
committee.
put
So
that
we can look at
into
some of
our,
those things. Yep.
our thing there, so that was my question on that one.
If I might, at Friday's meeting, the commissioner was quite clear that security and safety were very high on his priority list in terms of funding those grants, and that the grants would be a first come, first fund kind of a basis. And he suggested that if you have multiple grants, multiple different projects, you might want to write different grants for each one, because then he could accept some and reject others, not having to look as an all or none situation.
Okay.
But he was very favorable to security and safety requests through that grant.
Okay. Good to know.
Yes, it is, sir.
I do like the idea of the robotics one. I thought that was great. So they did talk about no grades project in that process. I didn't get a chance to get real deep into it because I didn't see it till today. But I'd like to have a conversation with the schools and the curriculum director more on that that model to see what that is all about. If we can, Brian.
Yep. Well, certainly the next time that she is here, that rather than have her given a report, we can have that discussion.
And I would, I know that, I think in a report she talks about we were doing, had some improvement in math scores and stuff like that. But I would ask that if she gets a chance, if she could, pop her head in both the 7th, 8th grade and in the high school, some of the math classes, just to see, as the curriculum director, if how everything is happening in those classes is correct across the process that we're looking for in those classes. In that, because again, that's one of the things that I think it's great to see our improvement in our math scores, and we always have done well in the English and language arts. So that was great. So.
Can I just ask for clarification? What I have is that you would like the curriculum director to give you a report regarding teaching practice, pedagogical practices, and curriculum practices in the math curriculum?
I just like to have her observe some of the math teaching that's in 7th, 8th, and high school grades. She's an outside set of eyes, and it's always been, it's been one of the things that we've been working on for a long period of time, and I think another set of eyes taking a look at to make sure that all the best practices and all the things that we requested to sort of be occurring are occurring.
Thank you.
And then that was all for, and then on the CHS report, at the very end, of his report, he talks about the science, kneecap science test results. And out of, what is that? Out of 122 students, 124 students, to have 80 of them be partially proficient or below was a concern.
Where is that now?
It's in the high school.
It's in the high school report. It's the very last
It's an
page
attachment,
5.
isn't it?
Oh, I thought it was page 5. It's page 5 of his report.
Yeah, I saw that.
It's not right there?
Yeah, I saw it this afternoon when I was looking at it.
Okay.
I see what you're saying. You're talking about 2017 kneecap science test results?
Yeah.
Okay, you just like a little bit more data on the,
Well, not a little bit more data. I guess I mean, it was nice that we got the test results, but I would have thought that it maybe a comment that this was a little eye-opening or a concern or
okay,
something that brought up a flag or something.
gotcha.
I stopped right there and I didn't see the next few pages. And I saved the rest of it because I didn't see pages 6 through 11, so I'll look at that and save it for the next
So I could always call it the next meeting.
meeting.
Didn't you ask about the sophomore projects?
I did, but I hadn't reviewed it, so I'm not gonna try to review it real quick. And
Right.
have questions.
Again, the principal's probably here the next time anyway, so
Yeah.
if you have questions, we can ask.
Principal Lonigan had just tried to respond to your
Yeah,
public
no,
questions.
I appreciate it.
And give you some information, so we can certainly
Excellent.
bring those back up when the principals are
I
here.
had read, in fact, that there were 11 pages to the document instead of just 5. I would
Right.
have
So when you said
would've
last
looked
page, I
at
kept
them more.
going.
They're
I think I
all-
sort of had a heart attack when I saw the science numbers and I'm like,
It's
stop.
basically a breakdown of where all the kids have done their sophomore projects, which is excellent. That's what we asked for.
Yep.
Yeah, it's cool.
Good. All right. So that'll bring us to committee reports then. So, budget committee.
The budget committee met last week and made some cuts to the town budget. Nothing was discussed about the school budget. That will be tomorrow. We'll be presenting tomorrow and next week. And then we're off the 16th, I believe. And then reconvene back after Thanksgiving, December.
They certainly streamlined even the town.
What's
I mean,
that?
the town was done, what, 3 meetings?
Yeah, yeah,
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
It was.
yeah.
Well, when they're reasonable, then things can happen
Well, the
quickly.
goal was to get within the tax cap. So we got, I think we made 16,000 in cuts, but we had 16,000 left to go, so that the budget and the warrant articles fell within the tax cap, so that the budget committee could make recommendations on the warrant articles. So
So
we're
they can-
close,
so
but
they
not
can-
quite
So they
there
can
yet.
make recommendations. And the
Right.
town, and the town budget is, how much of an increase this year? As of right
I
now?
don't recall.
Can't be a whole lot because they cap is
Yeah, the tax
2%.
It was
Yeah.
174,000 was all they had to work with.
Yeah. Yeah. Did go up quite a bit. They had a 17% jump in health insurance. And
And one of the things they asked
Fire
in the meeting
hydrants.
was whether or not they could,
the fire hydrants, right, was another 125,000.
150.
Is that because we added so many with all the?
Yeah. And they're all on Pennachuck, so we have to pay for servicing.
so one of the
Then
things,
check when cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching.
Exactly.
I don't know
They may
if
pay
Troy
off
reached
that
out to you or
deal.
not, but one of the things he talked about at the meeting was piggybacking with the school as far as insurance.
No, he hasn't reached out to me at this point.
Yeah. Because their insurance, I mean, last year I think went up about 20%. This year it's gone up 17%.
We were partnered with them for the longest time. It just sort of, it changed under the previous BA, but for the longest time, they were a subcategory, they were part of our insurance program because it added to the numbers.
My understanding was that we were on the same contract schedule with the unions, and then for some reason,
Then we're off.
then we were off, so we weren't negotiating at the same time. So
I don't think that ever had anything that,
that was my
no, that-
understanding from the
no.
meeting.
I
But
don't-
they are interested in joining back up again, and I think,
yeah.
Smart.
Can't
yeah,
imagine why.
I don't know why.
Yeah, I mean, that's their responsibility then to contact you if that's something they want to start up in conversation on. And so you meet tomorrow at 7 o'clock here, right?
That's right.
The schools. So I encourage anyone out there in the public listening that at 7 o'clock, they will be presenting, the superintendent along with Corey will be presenting the budget to the budget committee. And I'm not sure what discussions are taking place tomorrow night.
I did post the agenda on Facebook. I believe it's the schools. I'm sorry, I don't have it at
Sorry.
my fingertips right now, but the three schools.
Three schools.
Special services, I think. It's a big night.
I think I just do the overview, then Corey's going to do the overview, and then a little bit of detail on all the financials. And then I think the three schools, I know that HR is the following week, and I think curriculum is scheduled for tomorrow night.
It is, yeah.
I think it's curriculum, the schools, say technology and special services. I think those
No,
are the.
it's normally
Special
separate
services
rounds.
on tomorrow night.
They'll play the
That's
grounds
tomorrow
tomorrow.
as well.
It's a long night.
It's a long night.
Yeah.
But hopefully, if we stick with functional analysis and then there's no major changes in the functional areas, then it should be a relatively quick.
Right. And tomorrow's just the presentation, so they'll ask questions and ask for clarification.
Corey, the budget is up under 3% to begin with, so, I mean, I think we brought forward a pretty conservative budget, to be honest, and that includes full-day kindergarten internally within our operational budget.
Right.
So I think it's a very conservative
I'm sure
budget.
that will be a topic of discussion as well.
That would not
Sure.
surprise me.
Let's see, who will discuss it, who will say put on the warrant article? Let me think.
Just as long as there's more people that want it as part of the operating budget, we're in good shape.
Yep.
When do we vote on what we want in the warrant articles? That's after the budget committee has the,
Oh, we haven't,
Does-
Actually, we could start talking warrant articles
Yeah.
right now.
we're just having a discussion on warrant, yeah.
okay, I was just wondering
Got a
if,
deadline.
We have a deadline, I think it's like January 8th.
Yeah.
Yep.
Or something like that, but normally we'd sort of have them done so that the budget committee
Didn't vote on them.
can vote on them or have questions. But I know that in the past, budget committees met the week between Christmas and New Year's, because sometimes they have to have that meeting so they can work on warrant articles. But I think we discussed that the other day at our meeting on Saturday. Do we really have a lot of things that we were?
I think that we'll have minimal number of warrant articles this year. I think the one warrant article that you're looking into, Cory, is the one article about, do we want to go back and ask the town about the potential for a reserve fund? Because there was a sense, and Cory can explain this much better than I can, that the district may not have brought forth a great deal of clarity on that warrant article the last time, and Cory's been researching that. So that is something. Other than that, I would anticipate very minimum number of warrant articles.
I mean, go ahead, Warren. Go ahead.
That would be the 2.5% contingency reserve, and it's a reservation of fund balance, not a capital reserve fund. And then looking at some of the historical information about the presentation when it came forward in the past, is that there seemed to be a lot of people believe that it was more of a capital reserve fund where you were setting aside money with the trustees of trust funds, and that's not the case. It's a reservation of your fund balance, and you have to go through the budget committee and the state before you're allowed to go into deficit appropriations to spend out of that money. So it gives you an option to go into deficit appropriations and spend money if you need to for emergency type areas.
That's a towny thing. There's a lot of newspapers today. There's a town, I think, it's like Pembroke. It was in the United. They're having a town meeting tomorrow because the budget committee and the school board were at loggerheads last year. And the resolution of the loggerhead was that the school board acquiesced to revenue numbers projected by the budget committee. Okay, well, they now have a $1.7 million projected shortfall for this year. So they need $1.7 million from their voters right now to be able to get to June 30th. Did they talk about that last week?
No, it wasn't
Okay.
talked about. I just
So
know I
they-
have, I know the BA at Pembroke, and I have some friends that work up in that, and I don't know the whole story, but I know they've had some financial issues up there, but I don't know the whole story.
Well, based on the article in the paper, it was revenue.
Are they gonna have to issue supplementary tax bills to do it?
Well, one of the selectmen says, tax bills will go out in a week or two, they're due the first week of December, so I would imagine that if they vote yea or nay, I don't know how they're going to solve their problem, but that's a great article to have.
Is that in the Union Leader?
As a union leader today. Christie, maybe a great article to have is because inevitably these constant battles between a budget committee and a school board, or budget committee and the selectmen, inevitably at some point in time, as that town has found, somebody's going to be wrong. And they're not wrong by a few $100,000. In this case, it's $1.7 million. And I think they're about the same size as we are as a district.
They're bigger.
Okay, they're bigger, okay. So that's $1.7 million, maybe on a $30 or $35 million. I mean, that's a lot of money. And this was after the school board agreed to cut 4 teaching positions. So they cut $500,000 or so, $400,000 or $500,000 in teaching positions to try to pacify the budget committee. And when the problem is, it's not the budget committee that has to face the voters tomorrow, it's the school board and the school the SAU administration, that has to come in and bring that to the town. So, and that, so, but on the next thing, capital planning committee, we met. We went lengthily through, our matrix, and we did make many changes. I gave Corey my matrix, so I don't have an update, but I will tell you that the matrix for HVAC didn't get touched at all. But all the other three did get touched, to a point of, I think if you added everything up back together, it's $3.94 million. I mean, we took everything that was above $500,000 and we just pushed it off. And then we went down to $50,000. And if it wasn't life safety, or we couldn't figure out a reason to justify it, we eliminated it from the, it seemed our recommendation would be to try to do this as a bond. And there was some conversation on rekindling the elementary school debate, but we were very adamant that we were not asking the building committee to do that, and that at the present time, the school board was not, one member was, but the school board was not looking at addressing the elementary school at this time. And because a lot of the costs were, seem to be in GMS. So, but Corey's going to have the matrix back together in the next day or so. When you do, send out to everybody, but include the school board in the distribution of that if you can, and then you guys can see where we are as a committee right now. And we're meeting again on Tuesday at 6 o'clock, right back in here. And we're hoping to, from that, have enough information to make a recommendation to the board on the 15th. Probably not enough time for Corey, but Corey has found an RFP that can somewhat be used to, the board can instruct the SAU to go out and get some hard bids on some of the work that needs to get done, and then we can we can look to have true prices in place before January 8th. And is it the same rules for a bond as it is other than for a warrant article? So it has to be done on January 8th, or can that be later in the process?
I think they all have to be posted on the same date because they have to be warranted prior. I believe they all have to be posted the same day.
Same date, okay.
I believe so. We can double check that, but that's my initial reaction.
All right. So, does that pretty much wrap up on that?
Yep.
You were there.
Yep. It was. Anything else? No other reports, right? All right. That'll bring us to old and unfinished business. First is the first reading of IKF, graduation requirements. It looks like this just has that paragraph in there,
Yes,
what
it
we
does.
discussed, as far as changes.
That's correct.
Do we need to have that paragraph in there, or can we just grant a waiver without having that?
No, 'cause it's in our
outlined in the-
it's in our policy, as far as graduation requirements.
So we have to say that we can grant a waiver?
Correct. It has to come to the board.
That's exactly what we said. It's written exactly, yeah.
That's what the board directed us, and I think I think it allows for exceptional situations in a way that's appropriate. At the same time, it keeps the board informed as to how many exceptional situations on an annualized basis are occurring. I think it's a good policy.
Make a motion to approve the changes to IKF.
Yeah, this is the first read.
That's the first reading. Who's taking notes?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Is this
That was
supposed to be
Derek.
you?
Yes,
We have a recording.
I know. She just wanted me to take note of the motions.
Take note of the notes.
All those in favor of accepting the qualifications on IKF, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain.
Just rewrite them like I did. Just make stuff up.
She has listed here, and she's not here,
Second.
list of qualifying high school math courses, because I know we talked about this, and we're looking for this for guidance. But I don't see.
Yeah, I didn't see
There's
that
no
either.
listing.
My apologies, I'll have to get that out to you.
Yeah. Maybe she was supposed to attach it, but
Yep.
I don't have it. I noticed in curriculum too that there's 2 math courses that were just approved also that she's gonna present to the next board meeting.
PSAT and SAT prep.
Yeah,
What's
I-
that a math course?
Intro to stats.
It's both. It would count as both. I think it would be a half credit for math and a half credit for language.
Yeah, We'll see when she,
Okay.
we'll see the next time when she's
Well,
here.
the other one was intro statistics. I knew that was a math class, so I was kind of excited to see that.
And the next is a review on BEDC.
I think a lot of these now are just revisiting policies.
Yeah.
I don't think there's much complication here for your first reading.
So
No. this-
everything in italics that's not new. Normally italics I think is new stuff. This isn't all new stuff.
What's that?
Normally the stuff in italics is like new, but the whole thing's italics, so it's not
Yeah,
all
it's
new.
true.
Well, this is one that's required by the state, and I think this is another
Oh,
one, just
that's
like,
what this
Is it new?
This is new.
Okay.
This is new. You're right.
and again, it's another one of those that it's more or less like drafted by the state, and here's what the policy is.
That's right. You're not allowed to change it.
Yeah.
Individual choice.
Hope you enjoy it.
I'll make a motion to accept it as, that's not a first, as a first review.
Yep.
Second.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain.
And the next one is just a change. The state had us change the term from discrimination to sexual harassment. So that it's just a change, but discrimination and violence had to be struck from the, not the sexual, discrimination or discrimination and violence, we had to strike from the policy.
Make a
You had to
motion.
strike from it? They're
Yeah,
still there.
the state RSA changed their wording, so our wording to be consistent, we had to adopt this wording.
Okay. Well, we're still saying sexual harassment, discrimination, and violence.
That's correct.
Okay, that's what we're supposed to be
We're
saying.
saying sexual harassment and sexual violence.
Okay. Gotcha. Did you make a motion, John?
Yeah.
Just
So-
a second.
As review.
Is this on JBAA?
GBA.
GBA, I believe.
Yeah. We have a first and a second, any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Like,
Also, I.
what else? You think we just all spaced out over there?
It's
Brian?
like slow, yeah.
I'm just catching up. Catching
I had to
up.
stop and think, did I just say something and no one heard it? Or-
I was looking at his lips were moving.
This,
Boy.
this is the wording on the, having to, parents have to opt in as opposed to opt out, and so the change on surveys, with the
questionnaires,
exception, with the exception of the annual survey that we do on youth risk behavior.
And this is on IDL.
I can't remember if you saw this last week, if this is the first reading.
Yeah, it's not a first reading, it's like a first
Draft.
review.
We
Yeah.
talked a
Our
lot, we
draft.
talked about it a lot, and I just can't, I
Yeah.
can't. So
No, we
that's,
definitely talked about this one.
We talked about this.
yeah,
Yeah.
and internally, we've talked about it quite a bit too. But
Make a motion to accept for first review.
Motion, second?
Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain. I believe that's the last one, correct?
that's the last one I have,
Yep.
Mr. Chair.
Are we all set with the manifest?
I think we need one more signature on it.
Can you pass that down to
Two
Cory,
more
please?
signatures, because Derek hasn't done them.
Sorry.
Just
Do you have anything from Norm?
Los Angeles versus you. No, I do not, Mr. Chair. Sorry for my,
No, that's okay. I can't hear well either.
yeah, well, you hear better than I do.
Okay. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So made.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Good night, everyone.
Good night,
And
thank
again,
you.
just a reminder to everyone out there that the budget meeting will be reviewing the school board budgets tomorrow at 7 o'clock. If you can, please come on down to support. Thank you.
So we're gonna go and watch that World Series, Game 7.
We are.
Not very frequently do we have a Game 7 of the World Series. This is a good thing.
I was all excited for an exciting game last night, because, I go to bed like the last two beforehand, and it's like boring as can be last night.
Oh,
I have to say, I saw the
Thanks,
first
sir.
and second inning, then the eighth and ninth inning. I don't know what happened in between.
not a whole lot.
No, it all happened
Apparently
after.
not.
You know, it's funny, because